With the help of Hashem, we are learning Brachas Daf Lamed. We are in the middle of the sugya of Tefillas HaDerech. We quoted yesterday without certainty now to confirm that Noidi Yehuda Tzlach is the one that clarifies the meaning of the words of Elyahu Hanavi when he says Himalech B'Koincha. Himalech means get permission. What's Pshat getting permission from Hashem? Davening doesn't mean getting permission. Al Pi Pshat, you're davening, you're asking for. Getting permission means that we are open to hear a yes or a no. So he quotes that Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa will learn soon was the one that says that Im Tefilla shugurasi b'fi, if the Tefilla flows out of my mouth. So I heard from Rabbi Leib the Pshat that they didn't have Sidurim then. So when a person davened, everything was by heart. If they got tripped up, that Pshat, they felt the Tefillah wasn't well. But then there was Al Pi Kabbalah, they felt that the words were not coming clearly out of their mouths. Now for people like us, it's no simon at all. It means you didn't eat good, you didn't sleep good. But for big tzaddikim, that was the raya, that if Im Tefillah shugurasi b'fi, then God will answer my prayer. So they would say Tefillas HaDerech and they would feel whether the Tefillah is flowing properly out of their mouth. And being that this is something only shaykh to greater people, so the Tzlach explains that's why Abaya says no. You don't know. People like us, we're not on the level of knowing Im Tefillas shugura b'fi. So that's why he said change the nusach from Lashon Yachid to Lashon Abim. Because we don't have a way of asking Hashem ba'oifen to hear whether it's a yes or whether it's a no. But at least, instead of you davening for yourself, if you daven for us, whenever we daven for us, it's guaranteed that a tefillah for the rabbim, ein chayzeres reikam. That's how he explains really the machloikas as to the nusach, lashon yachid, lashon abim, depending whether you're a tzaddik or a beinin. That's a gewaldige word. We're going to continue to learn more details about the difference between havinenu and the tefillah ketzara, always going back to the Mishnah on Daf Chav Ches Amid Beis. The tefillah ketzara is not havinenu. That's when a person is b'makim sakana, the Mishnah says. So it's mamash a two-liner. Hoisha Hashem es amcha es she'eris Yisrael b'chol parasha su'ibur yiyud tzorachem lefanecha. That's the ganze tefillah. Baruch atah Hashem shemei tefillah. So what's the nafkamina halachically between the tefillah ketzala and havinenu? And we'll see havinenu is a substitute. Tefillah ketzara is not a substitute. Tefillah ketzara is only a band-aid, so to say. Which means that if a person gets back home before the Zman is over, they have to daven again. If you said Havinenu, even though now you're able to say the proper Shemona Esrei, no, you don't say it again because Havinenu is mamish b'makayim of the Shemona Esrei. We're going to learn various Amoraim that would daven Shachris before the ideal time. And we'll learn a machlokas Rashi Tosfos, whether that's even before Alois, or the way we understand, the way we paskin like Tosfos, only from Alois. Ideally, the time is, we know, Mishiyakid really nates, but b'di'evid to daven earlier, because tefillah is not like other mitzvahs where you do the mitzvah, that you put on tefillin. If you have kavana, even the better. Kavana is part of tefillah. Tefillah is you can't call it a chayvas halavavas because you have to articulate it. But tefillah is connected to kavana more than other mitzvahs. Even if you say mitzvahs ein tzriches kavana, without the minimal kavana by tefillah, you don't get your tefillah. And because of the importance of having good kavana when you daven, so therefore when a person travels, if they know that they're not going to have as good as a kavana, if they daven bizman, they should daven before the zman. And we're going to learn more about davening even sitting down, sometimes under certain circumstances. We're going to have a Mishnah that teaches us gewaldike dinim about tefillas musaf. How musaf is not like the other tefillos. We're going to learn an opinion that says that you never daven musaf b'yachid. We already mentioned this. If tefillas b'makim korban is tiknum, so musaf is in the place of korban musaf. Avos tiknum, there's no avos for musaf. The shachris mincha ma'ariv. So musaf is only connected to korbanis. Korbanis can only be brought in the Beis HaMikdash with a tzibur. So there are many that hold that if there's no tzibur, you don't daven musaf. Well, we're going to learn various opinions as to what were to happen if you forget to say Aliyah. Happens today. Person can forget the difference between Ma'ariv, Shachris and Mincha. We're going to learn various concepts in the Gemara that we don't find in Shulchan Aruch at all. And God willing, we're going to start the 5th chapter, Ein Oimdim Le'ispalal El Metoich Kovid Rosh, which opens up a whole new sugya, which speaks directly of the mindset and the midos set, the emotional state that a person has to get into in order to properly daven. We're going to learn about Kovid Harosh, which is the concept of bittul, that's Tanya Perik Mamalef. We're going to learn tomorrow about the opposite of simcha. We're going to learn a lot about the balance, about being on the same time joyful and at the same time to feel trepidation. That's called Vigilu Bira'ada, the words of Tehillim all the way in the beginning. Okay, let us start on Daf Lamed Amud Aleph. We left off the end of the 7th line from the top of the Amid, Rab Chizda ve Rab Sheshes. And just to chazer that the last thing we learned, right, was Amar Rabbi Yaakov Amar Rab Chizda. I'm sorry, Vehechi Matzli. Rab Chizda says Mu'umad. To make it clear, Mu'umad can mean two things. Mu'umad can mean you have to stop when you say Tefilla Saderech. And I heard from someone else that the Rebbe stopped, the Rebbe got out of the car and the Rebbe stood up. Because in the Mu'umad there's a machlokes what it means. Does it mean just to stop? When you're able to. Today in America, you have your car, you can stop. When you go on a train, when you go on a caravan, you're not stopping. But if you could stop, or stop and get up. And Absheshes says, Afilu Mahalach. That's the machlokes Amorim. So now the Gemara says that once Rab Chizda and Absheshes, they had this argument. Now Chevra Rab Sheshes was blind. Hava Kozli Be'urcha, they were going together. Now, it's not that Rab Sheshes mamish needed Rab Chizda to be his eyes. Rab Sheshes had his own helper, had his own attendant, but they were going together. When it came to the time of saying Tefilla Saderech, right? The way we taka paskin, the way we especially minak chabad, when we learned before the words Mishasha Mahalach Bad Derech. Bad Derech means you are already on your way. That means you're outside of the city. So Rab Chizda stopped, and now Rab Chizda is the one that says before Mu'umad. So he mamish either stopped or he stopped and he stood up. And Absheshes, who's blind, was unable to see, but he heard something happened. There was a stop. Amar Absheshes asked his own attendant, "My kavod Rab Chizda." So Amar koi umatzli. He stopped or he stood up and he's davening, meaning Tefillah Saderech. Amar so Rab Sheshes says, even though Rab Sheshes was of the opinion, he says the words Afilu Mahalech. And Afilu Mahalech didn't mean B'di'eved, he meant Lachatchila. You say it while you're moving. Oikman nami lididi, please attendant, stop me also, or stop me and stand me up. Va'atzli, and I will daven. Why? Because mihiyois toiv al tikrara. If you can be good, don't be called. Don't be called bad. In other words, he felt it's not bad. You can do it mahalech. But he was going in the company of Rab Chizda, who felt that it's better to do it stopping or standing. He doesn't want another to call him Ra. So therefore, he acquiesced. The poil, he did what Rab Chizda does. Is that an idea of al-tifresh? You can say that, but here there's no tzibur. Just to say, Rabbi Avraham is saying that is this al-tifresh min tzibur? Here there's no tzibur. And here, this is their machlokes. It's very rare this. What's here is the opportunity for each one to show that when they argue, they're arguing not in theory, they're arguing in practice. But he doesn't want to be called bad. It's more like a zamaras ayin, even though Rab Chizda knew that he disagrees. Okay. So the one who can see stood. The one that was blind was going. It's interesting. Okay. Ma'ika, just to mention one final thing, that our minig is, we have this in the Hayom Yom, that when people travel, they say Tefillah Saderech every single day when they are during their travel, but they say it without Shem HaMalchus. And therefore, certain great chassidim said it their whole life if they didn't live with the rebbe. They felt that they're traveling. I think I heard that in Rab Mendel. Another final thing also that we mentioned Bekitza yesterday, that it doesn't begin with Berachot Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. So therefore, I mentioned about the rebbe, whether the rebbe made a bracha before, because ideally, if you make it a bracha semucha lechaverta, then it doesn't matter that then it's keilu you began with Berachot Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam. So I mentioned that some people made a bracha. That's what I heard from Rab Leib, that he heard Kalish Shlishi that the rebbe didn't make a bracha on something to eat. The Chassam Sofer didn't make a bracha on food because he felt that's a hefsek. You have to eat the food before you say the Yiratzim Olfanecha. So he made a bracha to smell something. Because when you make a bircha soreach, smelling is not called a hefsek. And then mamash, he smelled and then he said the Yiratzim. Today when you go on an airplane, sometimes you can make a depends on the youth. Depends which airline you're going on. Okay, weiter. So we learned Tefillah, we learned Havinenu, we learned the Machlokes Chevra, and whether it is every bracha, just the first line in the Berachot Hashem, or we learned the Havineinu, and in the Mishnah, Daf Chav Chesamid Beis, we had that Tefilla Ketzara that you say b'makim sakana. What's the nafkamina? Says Tosfos, the second Tosfos, what's the Gemara's question? Tema lema the ikebenayu, the Tefilla Ketzara einam espalul al b'makim sakana. The nafkamina is you can only say that short version only if you are in a place of danger. Says Tosfos, the Gemara knew that. The Gemara means to say, I know that Tefillah Ketzara can only be said b'makom sakana. Havineinu can be said even when there's no sakana, simply you are afraid that you won't remember the Tefillah. Then the question is, what difference is there after the fact? You said this Tefillah, you said that Tefillah, is there a difference? Or to say it in different words, these shorter versions of davening, do they substitute the davening? Mamish, is it, or substitute meaning that it has the same effect, or no? Now, then you can't do nothing, so you daven another tefillah. And lamay nafkamina, the nafkamina will be: do you have to repeat it if you come to a place where you're out of danger? Do you have to repeat it if you come to a place where you have a siddur? You already said havineinu. Do you have to repeat it again? So the Gemara says that's exactly the nafkamina. By havineinu, since let's even go according to I think it was Shmuel, right? That gave that nusach at night like it very good. Let's go. Not only Rav, but even Shmuel, you have to daven properly the first three and the last three, the three berachos shvach, the final three berachos hoyda'am, v'chimati lebeisei, and therefore when you come home, if you come home, you don't have to daven again. You already daven properly. However, but Tefillah Ketzara, since when you daven the Tefillah Ketzara, it doesn't have the first three and the last three. So therefore, when you come home, it's not a replacement. It's not a kitzur. It's not an abbreviated form. It's a whole different tefillah. If it's nothing or the Tefillah Ketzara, say the Tefillah Ketzara, but it's not in the place of. So therefore, if you have time, you have to repeat the whole Shemona Esrei. And Vehilchasa says the Gemara that Havineinu Me'umad. Tefillah Ketzara Bei Me'umad Bei Mahalech. And that's a little bit linked to the Tefillah Saderech. What is Me'umad Shemona Esrei? Havineinu is in the place of Shemona Esrei. If it's not Shemona Esrei, Bei Me'umad Bei Mahalech. And by the way, Tefillah Saderech, we paskin. We don't have to stop. Those people who stop, they're going mamash beyond the letter of the law. Okay. So the Mishnah taught us the din, not only of standing, getting off the donkey, but also facing, as we'll see, the Kodesh HaKodshim. Tana Rabbanan. So in the Mishnah, we learned get off your donkey. The Brisa says not so quick. The Brisa says that you have to know yourself. You have to know how much of a distraction will you feel in your head and in your heart if you have a worry that who knows what's going to happen to your donkey. That fear takes away from your kavana. Kavana means to direct your mind and your heart towards the Eibishter. If there's someone there available to properly hold on to and to guard your donkey, then then get off your donkey like the Mishnah says in Davin. Ve'im lav, says the Braisa, is sit on the donkey. Chevra, you have the later achronim that say that if you sit on your donkey, you make the donkey take 3 steps back. Gavaldik. Okay, Rebbe Yomer. Rebbe says, even if you have someone to watch your donkey, there's another distraction. We'll read the rashi in a second, and therefore always sit on your donkey. Because your mind is not calm. Why is your mind not calm? Says Rashi, shekasha olav ikuv haderech. Simply stopping. The stop itself, it's a big statement, alone is already a distraction. So just because of that, how long? We're not speaking about a case. Rashi doesn't say because you're going with a caravan and you might remain alone. He's saying when a person is on the journey, when the guy's moving, you tell a person stop. That in itself bothers the person. I don't want to stop. I'm going. You're driving in a car today. You make a bathroom stop. Some people, no, they just want to go. They don't want to stop. Amar Rava v'temer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, the halacha is like Rebbe. You should know halachically, that's the whole question on an airplane. In other words, do you daven sitting? Because when you are going on a donkey, you're sitting. Or do you stand? That's to do with whether you feel you'll have a distraction. Depends how it can be a personal thing. Some people, as the Rebbe educated us, we should feel proud to daven, to get up and to put on talis and tefillin. Some people are uncomfortable. People have to know themselves. And if a person feels inhibited, there's another thing. It's time to know that if you're going on a airplane, not on a Brazilian airline, that even when there's turbulence and you're davening, they'll let you daven. But if you're going on an American airplane, if it's turbulence, they tell you in the middle of Shemona Esrei to sit down. I don't know if it happened to you guys. That's a real distraction. Because then you have to listen to them. So it has to do with that, and then you are afraid, will there be turbulence? All of these things halachically have to do with the fast, have to do with the question of your kavanah. As far as aside of the kavanah, there's no greater, the Rebbe taught us, there's no greater Kiddush Hashem to get up in a public place and to daven v'ayid. It's good. They have the greatest respect for us. We have to be proud of it. Tana Rabbanan, Suma, Umisha Einu Yachal L'Chavanas Aruchos. Today everything changed. Today we have a compass on the smartphone. But you didn't know which way is Yerushalayim, and it's which way is the Kodesh HaKodshim. Yechaven liboy keneged avav shebashamayim. So first of all, this concept, as we'll get soon into facing physically, is an expression of facing beruchnius. It's secondary. So the main thing is to get the mindset. We are facing Aviv Shebashamayim, Shenemer, as it says, V'hispalalu el Hashem. They will daven to Hashem. Daven to Hashem. However, Hoya Omed B'chutz La'aretz. Here, after you got the first step of Yechaven Liboy Keneged Aviv Shebashamayim, now Tosfot takes out the word Liboy, if not it doesn't flow. Okay, in other words, now that you got the ikir, now this should be expressed begashmias. Yechavin, so Tosfot says, if you'll see liboy, no, v'loy gersin and liboy, the apanav koi, Yechavin panav, Tosfot says, keneged Eretz Yisrael. Not only your heart, but your body, your face should face Eretz Yisrael. As it says, v'ispalu eilecha, they will pray to you derech artzam, by the way of their land, meaning dafka towards Eretz Yisrael. If you are in Eretz Yisrael, Yechaven asli b'keneged Yerushalayim. Shneimar, as it says, v'ispalu el Hashem derech ho'ir asher bocharta, and the city that you chose is Yerushalayim. Lo ho'ir, that it says in the Zohar, and those of us that have the schus to go to Hebron tomorrow, Samachpela, that our tefillas go up, right? V'zeh shara Shemayim through the Ma'ara Samachpela. So this has to be reconciled. It's not a stira. It's not a stira. It can go to Kodesh HaKodshim, and from there it can go to Hebron, and then from there it goes up. And we spoke about that when we learned the Midrash, or we learned Talmud, Ache Heir, Pnei Mizrach, and Hebron. You know, there's a link between Yerushalayim and Hebron, but we here face Yerushalayim. Hoyayim Yerushalayim, Yechaven asli b'keneged Beis HaMikdash. Shenemer, as it says, v'ispalu l'bayis hazeh, dafka, to this house. Hoyayim Beis HaMikdash. Then what do? Yechaver asli b'keneged Beis Kodshei HaKodshim. Shenemer, as it says, v'ispalu el hamakim hazeh. Hoyayim Beis Kodshei HaKodshim. Ad kedei kach. Who is that? The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. A person who's fixing the walls. He's refurbishing the Beis HaMikdash. He's in that box that we learned about that had three sides. One side was open. Minche, time to daven. He's in the box. He davens in there. So where should he daven? Yechaven asli b'keneged. Let's take away the word bias. We're going to follow that girsa. Keneged hakapoides. And that's very important because the luchos, that's chachma. The kapoides represents, you can use the word keser, or the oid ein soif, that's above the hishtalshalus. That's the highest level. And you daven keneged hakapoides. If you're standing behind the Beis HaKapoides, what does that mean? If you remember, we learned this, that behind the house, the Heichel, there were 11 amas from the wall on the western side of the Kodesh HaKadoshim until the western wall of the Azora, not the western wall that we call today the western wall, not the Koisel Amaravi. There's 11 amas in the Azora itself. And we learned that there was only 2 guards there and they stood alone because no one else was with them. So if someone is there, so Yire Atzmai Ki'ilu Lefnei HaKapoides, says that Rabbeinu Yoina, these words mean 2 things. Amazing. Number 1, everyone is davening. When you are in the temple compound, you're davening towards west. Because the Beis HaMikdash went from lesser holy to greater holy, mimizrach l'mayrav, shchinta b'marava. But if you are behind, so now you become like us in America. Now you face towards east. But the Rabbeinu Yonah adds, not only do you physically face towards east, but when you daven, imagine that you are standing with everyone else. Most of the people were in the Azara on the other side. So it's an interesting kavanah that he speaks about. In other words, when a person davens, you're a chassid, daven, have in mind that you're standing in 770. The Rebbe is there. He speaks about azak kavanah. It's not just face towards, but see yourself amongst your chevra, most of the Yidden. And therefore, in your imagination, you're facing towards the west. And then, so it comes to us, right, the final narrow line, Oimed b'mizrach, machzor panav l'mayrav. If you're standing b'mayrav, machzor panav l'mizrach. If you are in the darim, machzor panav l'tzafin. B'tzafin, machzor panav l'darim. Nimtzu kol Yisrael mechavenes liben l'makom echad. Everyone is facing the same direction. Amar Rabavin, v'temer Rabavina, ma'ikra. Where do we find in a pasuk that it's not only facing to the ir asher bacharta, but it's mamas facing the kocha hakochim, because it says Migdal David, like the Tower of David, Savorecha is your neck, which is banoi lit talpiyos. It was built to talpiyos means as a landmark. A landmark by a yid. Tail means a mound. Piyos means the mouth. That means all mouths are facing the same mound, same point. Tal shekol piyos poinim boy. And now let's start with stories. Avua de Shmuel, we learned about him before, right? Abba and Levi. Ki havabo lemeipak leurcha. Whenever they were going to go out on a trip, have the magdemei umatzli, they would get up early and they would daven, even though they were able to daven on the journey. But again, journeying disturbs your kavanah. And they said that kavanah trumps the ideal zman of tefillah. Now, when it says they got up early, what does that mean? Big machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. We can see Shitas Rashi in Tosfos. Guys, look at the second to last Tosfos in the Amid. Avua de Shmuel v'Levi have a magdemi omatzli. So Perush Rashi says Tosfos, you know how early they daven? Before Amud HaShachar. We don't paskin like Rashi. Rashi felt, b'di'evid, now how much earlier he doesn't write, but we never had that in the Gemara. And Tosfos says, v'lei nira. Dim kein lo hoyo yotzim by klal, dadayin eni yoyim. Lefikach nira keperush Rabbeinu Chanano the Misha Amud HaShachar ka'amar. That's something that halacha we do today. That's, in other words, it's even before Mishayaker. Now you got a problem with your talis and tefillin. Speaking about davening, they would daven as of Amud HaShachar, right? And what's pshat? It's early because the ideal time to daven zakir is Neitzach Chama. But they would daven early because they felt davening within the B'di'evid Zman, L'shitas Tosfos. After Amud HaShachar, it's better to daven then than to daven when you're traveling. And now, you're not Yotzei Kriyashma, right? V'chi have not Yotzei Kriyashma, by the way. Kriyashma is from when? From when can you say Kriyashma? So no, we learned in the Mishnah also Machlokes. No, we learned Alois, we learned Mishayaker. Mishayaker is after Alois. So what they did was, they only daven Shemona Esrei. Because they felt that davening Shema while they're traveling is not as disturbing than davening Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei would take them a much longer time. So they would only daven Shemona Esrei, and then V'chi havimati Zman Krishma, and the ideal Zman of Krishma L'kula Alma is right before sunrise, then they would read the Shema. Now listen to what's happening. That means that when we learned this whole sugya of to be masmech, geula, l'tefila, they didn't do it that way. Because the blessings of Shema are connected to the Shema. You can't say emes v'yatziv, gal Yisrael Shemona Esrei. They only daven Shemona Esrei early. They felt that this is better. Come on. And now who does this go according to? Hold on, they are Ramayirayim. Ki ha, Tana de Tanya, that Hishkim Lotzeis Laderech. He's giving other examples. Here you're going on a way where you won't have a shofar. Now, B'chal, people travel with Rosh Hashanah, there's issues of the Tchum. In a case where there are no issues, here's you don't have an option. You're not going to have a shofar. So the din is, Mevi'im lo shofar v'toikeya, before davening. The Alter Rebbe did that with Napoleon. That's why the events took place. The Alter Rebbe blew the shofar before he davened. Or lulav minaneya before davening. Megillah v'koyra before davening. And Ushagiyah Zman Krishma, then koyra. But the Baraisa doesn't only speak about scenarios where you begashmius won't have an option. What about davening? Davening, you don't need something. You need to daven. You need to have kavanah. You don't have that kavanah when you travel. Hishkim, leishav bekarin, if you're going to be going on a carriage, oibesfina, and I think the emphasis of the Baraisa is that these are two settings where you cannot stand up. We had that before. The wagons were small. The boats were, little boats. You stand up, the whole boat flips over. So again, mispalel before you leave, letoisves, at least alois, ushkiyah zman krishma, then you're koyro. So in other words, kavana is more important than to be soymech, to be masmech gulul tefillah. However, Rab Shimon ben Elazar, right? Shimon Elazar oimer, benkach, never koyre krishma, and then mispalel. Kedesh ismach gulul tefillah. B'maiko mifligi. Mar savar tefillah mu'umad adif. Mamash mu'umad. Here, standing. And when you're traveling, you can't stand. You cannot stand up. Umar savar, right, Rav Shimon Elazar, that mismach ge'ula tefillah, that is adif. Okay. And look inside the final tosfos. Mismach ge'ula tefillah adif mili spalal mu'umad. And v'hachi paskei bahag. Halach Shimon Elazar. Umashma the yutches brachos mutali spalal baderech b'mahalech. We're speaking about a case that you're going to have to be walking. So in such a scenario, you can do it b'di'evid while you are walking ve'ein sarach la'amoid, and you don't even have to stand up v'ayin. But tosfos, this is the whole source. How do you weigh one against the other? Okay, and we are paskening that davening tefillah, mismach ge'ula l'tefillah, even if you have to be sitting or walking, is the worst. Better to follow the Seder HaTefillah.
Not like Shmuel and Levi.
Not like Shmuel and not like the father of Shmuel and Levi. Now other scenarios. Meremer and Marzutra. We're going to have to follow this along in Rashi. Meremer and Marzutra havi mechanfei. They would gather. Beyasora 10 yidin, a minyan. B'shabbatot the regla, on the Shabbos of the regel. Being that before Sfarim were printed, there was a chiyuv on those who knew the halachas to review all of the hilchas hachag. Either we learned the machlokes tanoim 2 weeks before the yontiv or a month before the yontiv. I'm saying this because today everyone has sfarim. Today the one by the pulpit has to encourage everyone to review the halachas. Then you couldn't review it on your own. They needed to teach it, and they would teach it Shabbos, and they would start the shiur very early in the morning, not after davening. They would dafka learn before davening. It's a whole interesting, and davening was almost secondary. I will read it in Rashi what happened. Which means that during the shiur, the people quietly, they walked out, they said the Shema Shmona Esrei, Shabbos, and they came back into the lecture. So the people who came to the lecture, they were able to quietly remove themselves and daven b'yechidus. But the question is on the lecturer, on the Rav who's teaching the dinim, when does he daven? So they would gather a minyan, umatzlu, they would daven before they would give the shiur, v'hadar nafki lepirka, and then they would go out to teach. I'm reading inside the Rashi. It's like mamash in middle. Rashi divrei hamaschel b'shabbat de rigla. I'll read the whole Rashi quickly. Shelifnei pesach vatzeres v'sukkos. Umenemer be'iro yemazutra be'ira. Each one in their city, and they were the darshanim. And v'shachris hoyu ha'amoyachol beis hamedrash. And u'shemigim zman krishma koyden adarshan koyden. What's that koyden? People daven b'yechidus. The darshan is doirish, and the people nishmatim. Means they removed them, they left the class quietly, not everyone at the same time. Umispalim ish levadoi. Olakach sagt Rashi that heim hoyma asfim lahem yud shachris koydem sheyel cholobeis hamedrash. Right. Again, let's follow tosfos after Alois, but the class began way before Nates, and they would read Shema, and they would daven b'smichus gula tefillah, and then they would give a share. The chiddush is that they would daven before the ideal zman. Keep your finger on Ashi. Let's go back in the gemara. Rav Ashi didn't have that minig. No, he wanted to daven at the ideal time. So what did he do? Matzli bahadei tzibura biyachid miyushav. Says Rashi. What does that mean? Rav Ashi was the Rosh Yeshiva in Masa Machasio and V'doirish. Now v'hula hayim espal koyim meis hamedrash. Because if you daven before the ideal zman, what do you lose? you're not masmich geula l'tefila because you can't say the Shema then. V'koira el Hashem. How did the people give a class then? They didn't talk and talk and talk. They would say a few words in Lashon HaKodesh, mainly to their miturgaman, to their amayra. Then they would be quiet, and the amayra would say it loudly, and he would expound upon it. So Rav Ashi, when it came the time to daven, let's say he would speak like normally for a minute, and the expounder would speak for 5 minutes. He would speak for a few minutes, which means it would take more time for his interpreter to give it over. During the time that the interpreter would give it over, he would daven Shman Shemona Esrei, but he wouldn't even stand up, because if the Rav stands up, everyone else will stand up. He didn't want to disturb anything. Wow. Reading, Eloichesh harbe yachad l'meturgaman, sagt Rashi, ha'emed lefanav, u'ba'oid sha'hameturgaman mashmiya l'rabim, hu ha'yer kodesh shema, v'soymech gulu l'tfila, u'mispalel miyushev. Again, emphasizing this concept. Now, why did he daven miyushev? Not because he had a problem with kavanah. He did not want to disturb the learning. We're going to learn, I think it's in the next year, about the Rabbi Akiva. We had this by all our rabbeim, that when they daven b'yachid, they would daven very long. When they daven b'tzibur, they daven quick, relative quick, because of tircha de tzibura. Which he didn't want to be treidach. Here it's worse than tircha de tzibura. Here he would disturb the class. It's interesting that the davening then was secondary to the learning of the halachas. The davening, the lengthy davening. They davened, but it was like, imagine, in between the fabrengen, when everyone is singing, that will be today. Imagine the rebbe sitting, that would be just a good example, would say Sheman Shemona Esrei in a way that it wouldn't disturb the people listening or singing v'chulei. Back. And now, hold on. Ki hava asi lebeisei, but when he would come home, hadaru matzlim, he would daven again. Wow. Why would he daven again? Because the fact that he davened sitting, even though he davened, he would repeat the tefillah. With all the dinim, that whether you have to make it into a tefillah nadava v'chuli. Amalei Rabbanon, v'le'evid mar kemerim marzutri. Why are you davening again? Why didn't you get up early and daven early? So Amar Lahu, he told them, Tiricha li milsa. Tiricha li milsa means, the way Rashi says, if I'm going to daven before, I will sometimes come late. I don't want to start the class late. Tiricha li milsa la'acher beis hamedrash. I don't want to delay my class. I want to start the class on time. What did they do? That they just daven Shemona Esrei. And if they just daven early, daven just, and then later say Shema. So Amar Lahu, so Rav Ashi responded, Loi chazina lahu l'rabbanan kashish minan da avdi hachi. I never saw the elders do it. Another good klal. Shimush. Just because they do it, I never saw the earlier generations do that. So Rav Ashi felt it's better to daven sitting down, Shman Shemona Esrei, in middle of the meturgamans, when the meturgaman is giving over, and Rashi says, and even though he would have to daven again, he would daven Shemona Esrei twice.
Just repeat Shemona Esrei like that?
What?
That's a thing, you could just daven twice?
So like this, we learned this many times. So first, Rabbi Yechanan holds, Ulavai Shispal Kol Yom Kulei. According to Rashi and Rabbi Yechanan, you don't even need to do a tefillas nadava. We halacha lamaisa. First of all, that's the way Rashi learns in Rabbi Yechanan. Many other Rishonim learn in Rabbi Yechanan that he also holds of tefillas nadava. Let's go with tefillas. We paskin that we can't just daven many times over. But when you daven a second time, if you add anything new, then you can daven again. Now we hesitate to do that because since we lack kavanah, we are afraid that if I'm not going to have kavanah, then my whole Shemona Esrei is a bracha levatol. Rav Ashi was able to have kavanah. But it's amazing how we daven this concept of the Rav Ashi was the one who put together the gemara, the rebbe. He would daven in middle of a lecture, sitting just Shman Shemona Esrei, and then he would daven again, b'yechidus. Many of our rabbeim daven b'yechidus, you should know. Our rebbe for many years daven b'yechidus during the weekday, meaning Shemona Esrei. He came for Kriyas HaTorah, but Shemona Esrei he davened alone. We'll see this later. Many, going back, see Rabbi Akiva, many people, they daven because if they would daven with everyone else, I don't know why. I'm just saying, when they daven with everyone else, they daven quick. When they davened alone, they were able to daven what they felt was a better tefillah. And sometimes kavanah trumps the tzibur, sometimes not, depending for whom. Says the next Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Ein tfilas hamusafin ela bechever ir. Chever ir, Rashi, is a minion. You can only daven musaf with the minion. Says Rashi, okay, that's it. Lo teknua ela betzibur. And like we mentioned, other tefillos, aside of them being b'makim karbonos, Avraham Avinu davened. Who was the minion by Avraham Avinu? Who did he have? Terach. I mean, he had his chassidim. But since musaf is only b'makim karbonos means tzibur. We're speaking of karbonos tzibur. Musaf is a carbon tzibur. However, now, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmai, meaning Chevre, in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Kol Makim Sheyeshem Chevre, if there is a minyan, Yachid, Patur, Mitfilas Hamusafin. But when there is no minyan, then what? Then he has to daven. No, that's the Gemara is asking. Gemara wants to clarify, isn't Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah? So the Gemara says, no, Ike benayu. Yachid Shalai B'Chevre. Right, you're in shlichus, you're living in a place where there's no minyan. You're traveling and there's no minyan where you're traveling. The Tanakh holds you don't daven musaf b'yachid, period. Rabbi Yehuda holds, when you are in a place where there's a shliach tzibur, so the shliach tzibur is exempting you. But if you are in a place where there's no shliach tzibur, then you're chayiv to daven. Amar Afuna bar Chinana, Amar Abchia bar Rav, halachi ki Rabbi Yehuda, she'amar mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Amalei Rav Chia bar Ovin, Shaper Ka'amna. This looks good. Why? To Amar Shmuel, since Shmuel says, Miyamai loy mitzalei not so loy said the musafim b'yachid. I never davened yachid, the musaf b'yachid chevra turn in the middle of a word, daf lamed amid beis, when I was in the city of Narda. Narda was a city where there was a minyan, many minyanim, there was a shliach tzibur. Right? Is araya that, what is Shmuel saying, what is he inferring? What is he implying? That when he was not in Narda, then he would have in Musaf. However, there was a time, the Asa Pulmusa the Malkalamasa, that the king's army came to the city, and Vitri the Rabban and the Chachamim were disturbed, and because of that they did not daven. So even then, even in Narda, and that one time that they didn't daven Musaf, it's Saleh Yachid, I davened alone. Why? These are the words, because v'havoy yachid shloi b'chever. And we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that says Mishmai, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. You never say Musaf b'yachid. You don't say Musaf b'yachid when there is a minyan. Yosef Rab.
There was no minyan in the town that day.
Then you say it.
He didn't daven Musaf.
No, fakir. Then he daven Musaf. When there was no minyan, then that's Shmuel did daven. Shmuel says Miyamai, I never daven Musaf b'yachid in Narda side of the time when the minyan didn't daven. This can joke. Then the army went into the city. They went into the Beis Hamedrash. They disturbed. That means they didn't daven Musaf in shul. Period. So Shmuel went and he davened on his own. Yosef Rab Chinana Kara Kamei de Rabbi Yanai Rab Chinana Kara. So you have people that were Tana. They knew all the Mishnahs by heart, and then there were people that they were experts in scripture in the Quran. And we learned before we're not that. Gung-ho about the experts of scripture. That was one of the pieces of advice, not to overly learn Tanach. It doesn't mean, God forbid, to be amaratzim like us. But Rab Chinana Kara means that he was taka an expert in all of the psukim. And you'll see there's a certain contempt that they had on him. Tanach, shkoyach, shalom. So that he, Yosef Rab Chinana Kara kamed Rabbi Yanai. All right? Rab Chinana Kara is sitting in front, and the Yosef V'Ka'amar. That halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda she'amar mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So when Rabbi Yanai hears it, Rabbi Yanai tells him, "Herzachayin omelei puk kara kareich lebara." Go outside of my Beis Medrash and go read your psukim over there in the street. Wow, you see that contempt. The ein halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda she'amar mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. I don't paskin like him. Amar Rabbi Yechanan ani re'isias Rabbi Yanai the tzali v'hadar tzali, that he davened. Obviously, he was davening b'yachid, and when he finished one Shemona Esrei, he davened another Shemona Esrei. So what does that mean? That says raya that now obviously it can mean for us that we davened the first Shemona Esrei. Let's say we forgot the Alav Yava, you're repeating it. But that meant for him, Avad Rabbi, he davened properly. He davened Shachris and he davened Musaf, and this was all b'yachid. This was in a city where there was a minyan. So that's a raya that we don't paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, we don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, we paskin like the Chacham. What's the raya? How do you know that he was davening musaf? Maybe because he made a mistake in kavana, and tefilla without kavana, we'll learn more pratim later, is not a tefilla. Right, that was the word of Rab Chaim, that it's not pshat that you have a mitzvah with kavana or without kavana. There's a certain minimum level of kavana that is the definition of tefillah. So if you're lacking the basic kavana that you're standing and talking to God Almighty, if you don't have that kavana the whole time, you don't have tefillah. Not you have a mitzvah without kavana. There's no tefillah. Maybe that's why he davened again. Amalei, no. Chazi man gavra rabba the komasid olei. The fact that we are testifying, who's testifying all this? Rabbi Yochanan would have understood whether his repeating of the Shemona Esrei was because he didn't have kavana or because he's davening musaf. The fact that he quoted Rabbi Yanai davening twice as a proof that you can daven musaf biyachid, he knew what type of second tefillah that was. And so here we have a machlokes in the Gemara as to who we paskin like. Rav Ami and Avasi. Even though there were 13 shuls in Tiberias, they only davened they only davened in between the pillars where they learned. What's the link, my friends? What does that have to do with anything? Is the haraya, according to this version, is that they learned in a place where there was no minyan. And davening in the place of the learning was so important that they davened even without a minyan. And what are we trying to say? And they davened on Rosh Chodesh, they davened on Shabbos with Musaf. That's another raya that you can daven Musaf even when you're davening biyachid. Now, they're davening b'cheverir. No, there's no minyan here. I'm going to say Musaf. Itmar, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi mishum Rabbeinu. Guys, we had this many times already. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi Rabbeinu means Rav. Says halachic Rabbi Yehuda Shama Mishum Rav Lazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Tzoli v'Ali Tzoli. Another, not like him. He felt like the Chachamim. Amalei Rab Zera Mai Tama Abad Mar Hachi. Why are you davening twice, one after the other? Right? If it's because you didn't have kavana, how you talking that you didn't have kavana? How can it be like someone like you daven without kavana? A person should assess himself before he davens. Someone like you for sure davened with kavana. So why are you davening again? Could be you daven with kavana, but that happened on Rosh Chodesh. And not that you daven shachris and musaf, maybe you daven shachris and you forgot to say Yalav Yavai. And what happens if you daven and you forget to say Yalav Yavai, especially during shachris and mincha? That's the way we paskin. You have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. That can't be either. Because v'hatanya tovaloi hiskir shol Rosh Chodesh ba'arvis. If you forget to say Rosh Chodesh at night, ein machzir noisa, you don't repeat the Shemona Esrei. Guys, what we're learning now is not halacha. We're learning a braisa. Why says the braisa? By the very fact that you can say it by shachris, you don't repeat the Shemona Esrei. If a person daven shachris Rosh Chodesh and they forgot to say Yalav Yavai, ein machzir noisa mepnei sheyachol amr b'musafin. B'musafin ein machzir noisa mepnei sheyachol amr b'mincha. In other words, why are you repeating the Shemona Esrei twice? He felt it's because you forgot to say Yalav Yavai. You don't need to repeat it. One thing is clear. It's not that he davened twice, shachris and musaf. It wasn't that. He taka repeated, let's say, shachris twice. But why are you repeating shachris twice if it's kavanah for sure you had? Musaf he held you don't daven biyachid. So you're repeating the Shemona Esrei because if you got Yalav Yavai, you don't have to. Because you're going to say it in musaf or you're going to say it in mincha. So amalei lav itman Allah amar Rabbi Yochanan. That when do we say that if you forget Yalav Yavai arvis, shachris and musaf, you don't need to repeat it because you have one other tefillah that's only together with the fact that you yourself will mention it in another tefillah, but you're davening with a tzibur, and therefore you're going to hear the Yalav Yavai from the shliach tzibur on that tefillah. That's the pshat on that baraisa. Guys, we don't paskin like any of this, but that's the baraisa. In other words, if I forget to say Yalav Yavai, according to the Shita, if I'm davening with a minyan, which means I'm going to hear the Chazaras Hashatz and they're going to repeat Yalav Yavai, together with the fact that I will say it myself in the next tefillah, then I don't have to repeat it. But even according to this opinion, if I forget to say it in mincha, even though I'm going to hear it now from the Shliach Tzibur, but that's the last, if it's the last day of Rosh Chodesh, then you have to repeat it nonetheless. We'll see how we paskin. Huh? By Ma'ariv, no, there'll be the next one. By Ma'ariv, if I forget it, there's a next one. There's Shachris. No, he's saying good. He's saying that by Ma'ariv, L'chayda, there's no Shliya, there's no Chazaras Hashatz. So how? That's a good question. So how can it even mean b'shtibut? So we're going to see halacha l'maisa. There's another reason why by Ma'ariv you don't have to repeat it. Maybe even according to this brayso, it goes according to this other reason. But bottom line is, what's the Gemara telling you? That he zicher did not daven twice shachris and musaf, because this follows those who hold that you don't say musaf b'yachid. Kama yisha ben tefillah l'tefillah. Whenever there is davening back to back, my friends, nowadays, we sometimes don't have kavanah, and you have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. If a person davens the whole Shemona Esrei, and they didn't even have the basic kavanah in the beginning, that they're standing in front of God, they have to daven. We'll learn dinim later. We'll learn really why today people don't repeat it again, is because we say that just like you didn't have kavanah the first time, who says you're going to have kavanah the second time? That's going to be a tosfot, we'll read later. Shema, if I said the Shema without kavanah, I have to repeat it, because Shema is 6 words. I, hopefully, can guarantee that at least when I'll repeat the Shema again, the second time around, for those 6 words, I'll be focused on what I'm saying. By the Shemona Esrei, we can't even guarantee that for people who know they can't guarantee that. But theoretically, if a person davens Shemona Esrei, and the person is able to have kavanah, but they were distracted, but they know that they can do it properly, they repeat the Shemona Esrei. Or a person now daven Shemona Esrei Shachris, they forgot to say Yalav Yavi. We paskin that you have to repeat the Shemona Esrei, so they're going to daven Shemona Esrei again. Or Shachris and Musaf. Whenever there's 2 Shemona Esreis back to back, how much time do you have to wait between one and the other? Rav Huna v'Rav Chizda. Chad Amar Kedei she'tischoinen datoi olav. Now guys, you know what tischoinen? Chanina. What does chanina mean? Chanina means matnas chinam. We're going to have 2 ways of understanding what tefillah is. When we daven, are we approaching God, obviously humble, but we're asking God for a gift, and we define tefillah as a tchina, or tischoilo. Tchoinen is matnas chinam. Vayechal Moshe, when Moshe Rabbeinu was davening on behalf of the community, he was not asking for matnas chinam. He was asking humbly, but it's not for free. It's a very deep way, machlokas, how to word davening. Is it a tchina or is it a tchila? And whichever nusach. So you have to wait enough time, she'tischoinen datei olav, for you to be able to get into the right tchina mindset. Chad Amar, the other one says, kedei she'tischoilel datei olav, for you to get into the right techila mindset. Supplication, entreating in English. It means matnas chinam, are we davening as bechinam or are we davening not bechinam? When I'm davening for me, it always has to be chinam. Moshe Rabbeinu, ein lecha greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. He never felt that God owes him anything. He davened, God give me a gift for free. When you daven for the community, vayechal Moshe, he wasn't asking for chinam. Very important klal. Where did he get that nusach from? The first white line by Vo'eschanon el Hashem. Bottom line is, you have to wait enough time that it takes you to get into the right frame of mind to daven. Halachically, how much time is that? Kedei hiluch dalad amas. It's a few seconds. But you have to wait those few seconds. And there's a whole discussion amongst the poskim, what happens if the Rav makes a mistake, and if he got Yalav Yavi, whether he should repeat it right away, or whether there's a Chilul Hashem involved over here. And the others, there's a whole, many people say, Ein lecha kiddush Hashem gedolim mizu. You made a mistake, you're in public, own up your mistake, and daven the Shemona Esrei again. You have to wait a little bit, but you see, just that amount of time. You're davening, you're in the davening mode, but you have to get into the right mindset of tchina, of Vo'eschanon or Vayechal. Amar Avanan, Amar Rav, Tov Aliyah Shel Rosh Chodesh Arvis. If you forgot to daven Yalav Yavai in Ma'ariv, Ein Machzirin Oisoi, Chaver, this is what we paskin in Shulchan Aruch, Lefi she'ein beis din mekachen es hachodesh el bayoim. Since in the ideal way of establishing the Rosh Chodesh, the Edom come to the Sanhedrin, and after they testify that they saw the new moon the night prior, but this testimony is given dafka only by day, mekudesh achodesh, mekudesh. Since this is something that only happens during the day, even though it's retroactively clarified that the Rosh Chodesh began last night, but because of that, even if you missed the Yalav Yavai, then you don't have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. No. And now, listen to this. Amar Ameimar, Mistabra Milsa, Derav, that when B'chaydesh Malay, today, just to know, the moon, the cycle of the moon. The moon is moving around 13 miles a day in the heavens. The sun is moving around 1 mile, 1 degree, which means that there's around 12 degree difference every day in movement between the sun and the moon. And therefore, 12 times 30 is 360. It takes around 30 days for the moon to be aligned directly under the sun. But that's just approximately. Really, it's not 30 days, it's 29 and a half days plus tashsag halakim, plus a few halakim. The word chelik is not a second. The word chelik, there's 180 halakim in a minute. Divide that, and it's around, every chelik is around 3.3 seconds or something like that. Okay, so since every month has around 29 and a half days, and you can't declare Rosh Chodesh in the middle of the day, so what do? Certain months have 1 day Rosh Chodesh, certain days have 2 days Rosh Chodesh, meaning certain months have 29 days, certain months have 30 days. We nowadays, Pasha, there's not time, we'll learn this more in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, we don't have 1 day Rosh Chodesh. Whenever a month has 30 days, we declare the 30th day already Rosh Chodesh, which makes sense, because you can't say day 30 because a lunar month never has 30 days, it's only 29 and a half days. So half of that day is already Rosh Chodesh, theoretically, if the Moiled was then. So we have 1 day Rosh Chodesh or 2 days Rosh Chodesh. So says the Gemara like this, that when you have a 2 days Rosh Chodesh, maybe that's what he's saying, and a person forgot to say Yalav Yavai might have of the first day Rosh Chodesh, which means what? That there's still another day Rosh Chodesh. That is mistabra. You don't have to repeat the Shemona Esrei, because even though you missed might have on Rosh Chodesh tonight, the emes is that Rosh Chodesh is 29 and a half days. Tomorrow night is really Yom Aleph. You'll say tomorrow night. Abel b'chodesh chaser, and therefore there's only 1 day Rosh Chodesh, and therefore forgetting it on Maidav is you forgot it on Maidav on Yom Aleph. Tomorrow night is Beis. So then you have to repeat it. So the Gemara says, no, Amar Ravashi la Meimar. Rav explained himself. Don't give new explanations. What did Rav say? Rav says, Rav says, because ein mekachenes achodesh ela bayoim. The reason that Rav gave has nothing to do with you repeating the Arvis tomorrow night on Rosh Chodesh or not. And therefore, Mali Chasun, Mali Mole, Ela Loishna, and Vekach Halachem. By Maidav, if you forget Yalav Yavai, you do not repeat the Shemona Esrei, not because it's Reshus, especially the way Tosfot understands Reshus to begin with. We learned the Tosfot twice. Reshus is not the way people think Reshus. Reshus means that if you have another mitzvah and you have to pick and choose, Maidav will lose. Even Reshus is a chayva.
What do we say to Melchatchila if it's Imekachin?
Why do we say Melchatchila? Because it's Rosh Chodesh. So Melchatchila we say it, but it's not Ma'akev. And that's the halach. Now that's only true b'negeya Rosh Chodesh, because ein mekachin as chodesh ela balayla. But whenever we add Yalav Yavai because of Yantiv, because Cholamayid, whatever the Yantiv, I'm saying Cholamayid because during the Yantiv we have a whole different tefillah. Whether it is Yantiv, whether it's Cholamayid, there we do repeat the Shemona Esrei at night, because it has nothing to do with Kiddush HaChodesh. Hadran Allah Tfilas HaShachar, God willing, we'll come back to you. Tfilas HaShachar, let's start with Perik Hamishi. Perik Hamishi is mamish a chassidut Perik. Why is that? Because the whole concept of Tefillah, again, there is the body of the Tefillah, which is articulating the words Dafke B'dibur, even though we had Shittas above, and we're going to learn a lot about Tfilas Chana, and you should know that in by Sfardim, and according to Kabbalah, when Mashiach will come, there'll be a time that will daven without saying anything. Not nowadays. Now we have to articulate the Tefillah, but part of the mitzvah of Tefillah is to have the right mindset and the right emotional state. So says the Mishnah, Ein oimdim liyispalal ela, ein ela, mitoich koived roish. Koived roish is the minik chasidim that every day we say the beginning of Tanya Perik Mamalov. And we'll speak about it more as we get into this Perik. In other words, there's a balance here. There's an opposite balance. There is the joy of being one with God, There's a joy. And then there is an awe of being one with God. And the question is, which one has to come first? Because really, we're going to have both. So the Mishnah begins that we can only daven mitoich koyved rosh. Koyved rosh can mean reverence. Koyved rosh is yira. A certain way, we're standing in front of a king. Whenever a person were to go into a melech basar v'dam, whenever you're going to go into a meeting, and you know that if you do good in this meeting, you're going to make $30 million, you enter that meeting mitoich koyved rosh. You don't say, wow, you don't go in there dancing. You go in there, there's a certain appreciation of the importance of and the seriousness of, and in our case, and the kavod of that we have to give to God Almighty. In order to get into this right mindset, it took them 1 hour, pre-prayer, not 1 hour for Shemona Esrei. First, they spent an hour to get into this koyved rosh, and then umispalalim. Why did they need an hour? By the way, they davened Shemona Esrei also for 1 hour. And then they had another hour after davening to come back into this world. So every tefillah took them 3 hours. But coming back over here, so we're speaking about the pre-prayer. A lot of our nusach tefillah nowadays, which is the Psukkah de Zimra, was in the place of getting into the right mindset. When you speak about this boinus, about the greatness of God in nature, and then you speak about the greatness of God in the heavens, that's part of the preparation for the Shemona Esrei. And then came along, the rabbiim, and they said the concept of learning chassidus before davening. All of that is to mirror the chassidim Rishonim that waited an hour before they davened.
What is the definition of chassidim Rishonim?
Chassidim Rishonim, the eltere chassidim. A good question, Svika. Okay, and he's emphasizing, Afilu hamelach shoel b'shleimei. When you're davening, what's about davening? Even if a king is greeting you, don't answer him. Now, guys, if you remember, we learned these dinner before about the Shema. Remember? Now we're not speaking about the Shema. No, by Shemona Esrei, you don't respond to a king. Hold on, lo yafsik. Pikuach nefesh. You're not, the pshat is that you have to be in such a state where you don't even know it. Now get into that state, you need time. Says the Gemara. Now we're going to Chana tomorrow. We're going to have a lot about Chana. That when Chana daven to God, it says, Vihi maras nefesh. Now don't appreciate something. You have to learn the Nach over there. The pasuk that speaks about her prayer begins with the words Vihi maras nefesh. If, that's the way the Rishonim explain. If Vihi maras nefesh has to do with the fact that Shiktaka had no children, so it's explaining the reason why she went to daven. That should have been part of the previous verse. But it's like the intro to her davening. It says she was maras nefesh is not exactly koyved rosh, but there is a commonality. There's a certain seriousness. Maras nefesh means she was bitter. So the fact that the Torah writes that she was maras nefesh before she prayed is aliyah. You have to be koyved rosh. The Gemara challenges maybe she was taka maras nefesh. You don't have to be in that state. She was in that state. She was exceptionally bitter. Right? As for me, through your great chesed, I go into your house, right? And I bow down to your holy sanctuary. What's the next word? B'yirasecha. Oh, why are we emphasizing Tanya Perik Memalev? Why Yira? Why not something else? No, you have to have Yira to daven. Again, maybe it's only David HaMelech. David shiny, he was the one that because of his and Lemadrei Gosoi, his failing of Batsheva his whole life, he had that type of Kavod Rosh. It's amazing how many times we are using Kapitel Chavtes, connecting it to davening. Kapitel Chavtes, Hishtach Bol Hashem, Bahadras Kodesh, Hodar, Hoid. No, go explain the mid of Hoid. Splendor. Hoid is also connected to beauty, to beautiful clothing. So I bow down to God in holy splendor. So look at this drush. How do you know Koyved Rosh? Because Al Tikre Bahadras Ela Becherdas. Cherdas means Charada. I daven to God in a holy awe. Maybe it means you have to daven, you have to put on beautiful garments. Have a mitzayin nafshek, to be mitzuyin means to be dressed $1 million. What's it called? He would get dressed because he's speaking to God. He got dressed. And by the way, that can almost be the opposite of kavod rosh. In other words, here you're dressing up beautifully, even though it's not a stira, but maybe the emphasis is more on the chitzoni, it's not on the inner. Ivdu es Hashem b'yira. We're going to stay with this. Ivdu es Hashem b'yira. And not only that, vigilu. These are such deep words that you should rejoice with trepidation. Even when you have gila, you have to have it b'ra'ada.
The opposite. You have to have a gila.
Rabbi Yaakov was saying it's the opposite, and we'll get a lot to that. 1 second. So now, what's pshat? What's pshat? Vigilu b'ra'ada. It's a stira. How can you have joy with trepidation? Omar Rav Ada bar Masna Omar Rabba b'makoim gila shom teheira the take gevura shebechesed. The Rebbe brings in Tanya. That's the Tana. That's Rabbi Lozer ben Rab Shimon. That when that in Gan Eden, one half of his mouth was smiling, the other half of his mouth was crying. In other words, even though we're going to learn tomorrow, you should only daven elamutech simcha shel mitzvah. Even according to this approach, mitoich kavod rosh, you're saying good. It's not a stira, but we have to temper, we have to balance. It's about a balance. Abaya have yosek Rabba, and Chazya Rabba saw in Abaya the Havakobad Achtuva that he was very cheerful. Nothing wrong with being freilach, but there was no balance with yira. Amar vigilu b'ra'adaksiv. So Amalei Abaya responds, no, I'm good. I'm not tefillin. Manachna, I'm wearing tefillin. Tefillin has a sobering effect. In other words, the very fact that I'm wearing tefillin, that's the ra'ada enough to balance the vigilu. One more line. Rabbi Yirmiyah, Hava Yosef Kamei the Rabzeda. Same thing. Hava Chazya, the Hava Kah, that Rabbi Yirmiyah was badach tuva. He was very cheerful. Amalei, it says, Shlomo HaMelech says, B'chol etzev yehei moisar. All sorrow brings a profit. Doesn't mean a bad sorrow. It means that you're lacking that amount of yira that is very beneficial. So we told him, Anna again tefillin manachna, and wearing tefillin is the amount of ra'ada that tempers the gila. God willing to be continued.